They say some houses keep what they are owed. Stories gather in their rafters like bats, sleeping until a voice wakens them. This is one of those stories. I repeat it as it was told to me, and tonight you will listen. If you enjoyed this kind of story, leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Claire arrived in Hollowford at the hour light forgets itself, when the sky goes the color of a healing bruise and the street lamps hum like insects. She had inherited the old house on Ash Willow Road and came with notebooks, a folding knife, and a scholar's faith that nothing survives scrutiny. The porch sagged as if exhausted by holding years. Inside, the air smelled of page glue and cooling metal. The wallpaper daisies had faded to the yellow of old teeth. She found the doll in the smallest bedroom, in a drawer lined with moth-eaten linen, porcelain face with a hairline crack at the temple, dress sequined with dull stars, a toy microphone wired to nothing. It wasn't beautiful, it was precise, and that precision felt like attention. Claire turned it over, pressed the button on the plastic mic. Nothing happened. She laughed and told the empty room, "You don't scare me." Somewhere in the house, a hinge answered with a small, polite click. She made rules in her field journal: observe, record, do not embellish. Midnight is for sleeping, not testing. Never give a name when you are not asked by a person. She cataloged the rooms, the stains on the ceilings shaped like broken continents, the attic's iron trunk, the nails that protruded like little teeth. By habit, she spoke her notes aloud to a handheld recorder. The house listened the way a closed mouth listens. When she set the doll on the dresser and left for the kitchen, the tiny green LED on the toy microphone blinked once, then again. Wind pressed its open hand to the siding. Pipes knocked like knuckles on wood. Claire brewed tea and steadied herself with ordinary actions, rinsing a cup, aligning cutlery, folding a dish towel into obedience. The power dimmed to a brown, recovered, dimmed again. She told herself the grid was old. At 1:13 a.m., the lights went out completely, and in the dark she heard it. Not a word yet, only the shape of one, rising from the bedroom like a radio between stations. She went to the doorway and saw the LED lit on the microphone the doll held. The hum resolved, almost tender. Claire. She tried the switch. The light obeyed. The LED went dead. She slept on the couch with her boots still on. In the morning, she found the doll on the kitchen table. Dress rhymed with a fine dew no window should have allowed. Beneath it, a ring of clean wood gleamed where dust should have been disturbed. She checked the doors, latched, the chain set. Hollowford's air had a taste of pennies and wet cedar. At noon, a neighbor, Mr. Dalrymple, beard like a bird's winter nest, brought a jar of pickled eggs and no smile. "Hang bells," he said, already turning away. "It prefers doors that do not ring." His granddaughter Eve, eyes bright with weather, called from the gate. "Does it still sing on Thursdays?" Claire laughed. Eve did not. Claire bought brass bells at the hardware store, where the clerk spoke as if words were breakable. She strung them on red thread and hung them on every door. She salted the thresholds because superstition is only method wearing folk clothes. She set bowls of water in corners to catch whatever light wouldn't stay put. She placed the doll in the hall closet and shut the door gently, the way you shut a sick room door. At 2:41 a.m., a bell chimed once, then again, as if the air itself had learned courtesy. Footsteps, light and deliberate, wandered the hall and paused at her bedroom. The chain lifted and fell. "Claire?" The voice had kinks in it, like wire bent and rebent. She did not answer. She counted her breath to 4, then to 8, then lost the numbers entirely. When morning came, the closet door was open, and the doll sat cross-legged on the floor, facing the wall as if punished. She carried the doll to the attic and found an iron trunk whose lid fit like a jaw. The key turned with a sound like a tooth giving way. She laid the doll inside, set the key on her tongue, and old habit, if you taste iron you cannot forget, locked the trunk and covered it with a crate of dishes and a family Bible swollen with damp. For the rest of the day, the house behaved like a house. The fridge fretted, the Flora remembered old footsteps and tried to teach her the rhythm. She walked the yard beneath black walnut trees, where a sandbox had surrendered to grass. In the sand, she found a plastic tambourine without skins, a rusted toy phone, 3 glass marbles that kept the sky. She read letters she had discovered under a loose board, a girl's hand writing about a friend who whispers through walls, about a melody the house taught her, about a promise. "If I am forgotten, I will be found." Claire copied the melody, 3 notes and 1 more, into her notebook. She hummed it without meaning to. The walnut leaves trembled as if listening. That night, she recorded the silence with a condenser mic. On playback, the silence had bones, a heart-like thump beneath the rafters, a thin whistle like breath behind plaster. A second voice braided into hers whenever she spoke. "This is a controlled environment," she told the recorder. The house exhaled through the vents in reply. At 3:07 a.m., the bells chimed in sequence down the hall, as if something tried its sizes on the rooms. The attic hinge ground its rust, the way an old gate remembers the field beyond. The trunk lid rasped open. Claire stood beneath the attic hatch and felt cool air pour down, not the weather, but the aftermath of a door unused for too long. When she turned, the doll waited at the top stair, microphone lit a patient green. It was not coming down. It was inviting her up. She did not accept the invitation. She left the house entirely and took the doll to the Historical Society, a red brick museum that smelled of beeswax and newsprint. The curator, Mr. Keene, logged it as child's doll, late 20th century, provenance uncertain, and locked it behind glass. Claire's shoulders fell from her ears for the first time in days. She slept that afternoon in a chair by the window and woke to rain rehearsing on the porch roof. Music drifted from the living room. Not radio, a child's song played on a throat instead of strings. The television had turned itself on to a public access test pattern no one had broadcast in years. In that static, the microphone's green LED appeared reflected, though it was not in the room. Claire unplugged the set. The song continued until it ran out of room. She drove to the museum at opening time. The case was intact, locked, and empty. In dust, a handprint. 5 long fingers like a child pretending to be taller. Mr. Keene brought coffee he did not drink. "Sometimes objects want to be where they were," he said, voice sloped with apology. Claire left without answering and walked home counting the cracks in the sidewalk. She lost count at 86 when thunder wrote its long name across Hollowford. The front door stood open the exact width of a hand. The chain was still set. The doll sat on the table on a ring of clean wood in a sea of dust. Water beaded on its dress without making the fabric wet. The microphone glowed. "Who are you?" she asked, forgetting her rule. The reply arrived as weight in her ears, as pressure on her tongue, as a story without vowels. It told of a girl and a promise stitched into wood, of a game that keeps playing after the players forget the rules. Claire placed the doll in the bathtub and turned the tap. The microphone failed, flickered, died. In the mirror over the sink, she saw not herself, but the small bedroom papered with daisies as if layered over her bathroom. Her reflection raised its hands in time with hands that were not hers. "Stop," she whispered, and the mirror agreed. Eve appeared at dusk with rain hung in her braid. "Granddad says not to sleep there tonight." Claire wanted to argue. The house argued for Eve by dimming the lights 2-3 times. At the Dalrymple's table, soup steamed in bowls like small fogs. Mr. Dalrymple said nothing and kept not saying it. Eve drew the house from memory on a napkin and added a tall shadow in the upstairs window. "It hums," she said. "That one." Claire pocketed the napkin as if a child's drawing could be a map out of a maze. Back at Ash Willow Road, Claire treated the haunting as a problem with steps, salt lines, chalk circles, bells at thresholds, bowls of water for reflections to catch themselves and hesitate. She spoke into her recorder, measured, professional, objective, separate object from locus, establish boundaries, refuse naming. She burned sage because she did not believe in it. She believed in refusal conducted with ceremony. Under a floorboard, she found more letters by the girl who had lived there. The last sentence ended mid-stroke, ink dragged as if the hand had been pulled. In the margins, faint pencil hills, melody notated without staff or clef, and beneath them a single word, forever. Claire hummed the notes once. The bowls quivered. The bells shivered. The vents exhaled a cool draft that smelled faintly of lemons and dust. She said, "No more music," and the house paused, as if listening for what the rules had become. Footsteps descended the attic stairs with the care of a child trying adult sounds. The doll waited in the hall, hair singed at the ends from some old attempt, eyes reflecting more light than the bulbs gave. Claire spoke her own name silently and put a Bible in one hand and a hammer in the other, because faith in hardware wilt the same way when they must. She smashed the microphone. It broke into halves that kept on pulsing. She burned a thread from the dress. The room smelled like melted coins. She ground the sequins under her boots until they became glittering grits. The bells rang not warning, but accompaniment. Anger made her bold. She gathered the artifacts the house seemed to use as instruments: the toy phone, the tambourine, the marbles, the letters, a ribbon, a child's sock found inside a radiator. She fed them into the iron trunk and chained it shut, speaking each item's description as if minutes in a meeting could domesticate a haunting. At 3 a.m, the rain stopped mid-syllable. In that cutoff, Claire heard a second house layered over hers, a double exposure of rooms, daisies bright again, a toy piano where her desk should be, a girl standing with her back to the door. Claire stepped into the room, and it stepped back to meet her. The girl tilted her head, listening to something Claire could not. A voice to Claire's left said, "Do not give it your name." No one stood there. The advice smelled like old linen. She retreated until the wallpaper dulled and the desk returned. On the desk, her journal lay open to a page she had never written. Names given to the house are names returned to the house. She closed the book as if that could fold the rule flat. Downstairs, a door closed gently, mannerly, as if a guest had decided to stay outside. Morning came as a truth she did not trust. Claire brewed coffee and planned her retreat in sentences she could lift. Return the keys, donate the doll, sell the furniture to someone who collected catastrophes. Plans have weight. Weight keeps you from floating into other people's stories. Eve knocked at 10. "Granddad says today's a bad day for mistakes," she reported, as if reading a weather map. "Has it always been like this?" Claire asked. Eve drew a square in the dust on the hallway table and divided it into rooms with her finger. "Some rooms listen, some rooms teach. That one," She pointed to the smallest square. Keeps secrets alive. Claire remembered the closet. She remembered the shift of weight when she shut the door on the doll the first night. By noon, the light lay on the floor like clean paper. Claire loaded the car with boxes, letters, notebooks, a sweater that still held the museum's beeswax smell. She left the doll on the dresser because she had become tired of carrying it from place to place like a wrong answer. When she closed the trunk, the porch bell rang. The doll sat in the driver's seat with its microphone raised. Claire did not scream. She felt a tenderness for the stubbornness. Hauntings are only loves with their permissions revoked. She placed the doll on the porch rail and locked the door from the outside with the key that remembered other hands. The key turned twice and stuck. The doll spoke clearly for the first time, a child's voice wearing adult grammar. "If you forget me, I stay." Claire answered before she could think, the way a person answers their own echo. "And if I remember you?" The porch boards creaked. Agreement or appetite? Impossible to know. "Then we go," said the house, not with words, but with a settling sound along the joists. So she opened the door again, because negotiations do not belong on thresholds. Inside, rooms had arranged themselves as if for inspection. The iron trunk was sealed, the bowls were still, the bells hung quiet. On the kitchen table, her recorder blinked full, though she did not remember pressing record. Playback yielded two voices singing a melody a third apart, one voice small, one voice hers. Claire understood. The house wanted a carrier, a duet to keep the promise in circulation. She lifted the doll and felt the weight of borrowed seasons, the summers of a child counting crickets, winters of a woman practicing lullabies against storms. She walked to the walnuts and laid the doll in the rain-swollen sandbox until the microphone filled and the green light died. Thunder rolled without a storm attached. On Ash Willow Road, windows opened a hand width, as if to air out something finally named. Claire drove to the museum and slid the doll across the counter. "Permanent donation," she said. Mr. Keene wrapped it in muslin and locked it in a deeper case. He typed a label with careful hands. "Do not tap the glass." On her way out, the doorbells tried the melody the house had taught her. They got it wrong, gloriously. Safety often sounds like inaccuracy. That night, she slept at the Dalrymples. She dreamed of the house breathing without a name in its mouth. In the dream, daisies were only daisies, and the toy piano could not find middle C. In the morning, Hollowford smelled like after rain and soap. Eve asked if the house would sing on Thursday. Claire said, "Not the way it did." She did not add, "It still remembers." Some memories deserve to be kept under the tongue. Some swear the doll hums after closing time at the museum. A sound registers here, but hands cannot locate. Some swear Claire moved away. Others say they see her sometimes on Ash Willow Road, checking the porch light, humming 3 notes and one more. Some swear it's true, others don't. What about you? If you enjoyed this story, subscribe, leave your like, and join our community of horror lovers.